Our first big story this morning, we'll delve into a landmark ruling by the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, the Community Court of Justice, which has found the federal government of Nigeria guilty of human rights abuses in its response to the #EndSARS protests in October 2020. The court's decision marks a significant victory for human rights advocates and the victims of the tragic events at the Lekki Toll Gate in Lagos.
The ECOWAS Court of Justice had delivered a powerful verdict against the Nigerian government for its handling of the #EndSARS protests, particularly the violent crackdown at the Lekki Toll Gate. The court has mandated the Nigerian government to pay 2 million naira in compensation to each victim named in the suit, highlighting the severe breaches of human rights standards. Now joining us to discuss this is Hassan Taiwo Soweto, spokesperson, Youth Rights Campaign, and Seumbur Iyange, a legal practitioner. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. Seumbur is going to join us later on the program. Is just trying to join. But in the meantime, let me get your opinion so far on the ruling. What's your take first? What was your reaction when you first heard the news?
Well, it's a good development because it confirms what we have been saying for 4 years now, that there was actually violation of people's rights at the Lekki Toll Gate. There was a massacre, and it wasn't a massacre without bodies. There was evidence. This judgment, even though it doesn't go so far, as actually saying that there was a massacre, it clearly established what the Nigerian government has not been able to establish through the panel, which was that there was serious breaches of people's rights during the EndSARS protest. The question now is whether this would even be implemented at all, knowing the character of the Nigerian government.
Very good one.
Now, talking about implementation, why do you have reservation that this will not be implemented by the Nigerian government?
Because President Tinubu was directly involved.
Directly?
That
but it wasn't. It wasn't
or directly, because you're saying
because it wasn't even in the arms of power then.
It wasn't, but his party was, and he was a leader.
Do you have proof to this?
And he was clearly involved in publicly denying that any massacre actually took place.
I think,
and so if such a person is now in power today, then I think it raises enormous doubt about whether or not this ruling would be implemented. There are tens, if not more, rulings of the ECOWAS court against African government, including Nigeria, that have not been implemented. And that's to tell you the fact that these bodies only exist to the extent that they do not disrupt or attempt to affect the domestic situations in individual countries. Once they begin to make pronunciations like this, then you can be sure that the individual government will completely ignore it. But President Tinubu can decide, to disappoint critics like us by actually going ahead to do that. But it will be very difficult. Why? It's because these people are running on a propaganda that the EndSARS, the killing at Lekki Toll Gate, was a fiction, and that the protest itself was an attempt to destabilize the country. They are running with that. They have been running with that propaganda for the past 4 years, and it's a narrative that is very important to them, and it has wide-ranging implications because for the past 4 years they've been using that narrative to try and dissuade any attempt at dissent, at legitimate protest. In fact, there's a protest coming up by some group by next month, August 1st. And already, the government has gone back to this trope that any protest on the basis of what happened 4 years ago is going to destabilize the country. So, from that point of view, it means that it will be very difficult.
I'm glad you're saying this.
To then go ahead to implement this ruling, because it will be a way, of admitting what they have, denied at every point in time over the past 4 years. But we have to wait and see.
Hassan, I'm glad you're saying this because it takes me to my next question about one of the court's ruling. The court has directed the Nigerian government to investigate and prosecute its agents responsible for these violations. How confident are you that the government will comply with this directive, and what measures should be taken to ensure accountability and compliance? So you said that the court is just an agent, and it just does that. But when it comes to domestic dealings of this African country, it's a different conversation entirely.
The brigadier met Taiwo, who represented the Nigerian army at the Judicial Panel of Inquiry, has since been promoted. Several other people who play different roles, both during the protest itself, in the repression that happened, and the efforts to deny the repression that happened. There is no evidence that there has been any attempt, to investigate them or to caution them or to reprimand them. God, don't forget that before now, even before this ECOWAS judgment, the Judicial Panel of Inquiry in Lagos equally made pronouncement about the need, to discipline or reprimand agents of government who are also involved, and nothing has been done. So, for me, it therefore means that it's difficult to expect anything to be done. Perhaps what people can say now is that maybe because President Tinubu is now the chairman of the ECOWAS authority, maybe that would put a moral burden on him to set an example. And if that is the case, what must be immediately done is, first and foremost, it's not just those who played a role in the massacre that happened that ought to be publicly reprimanded. Also those who denied it. The former Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, described, because it is a case of people dancing on people's grave. Because if you look at what is happening in Kenya today over the past few weeks, it's in a way, it's like a replay of what happened in Nigeria. For those 13 days, people were massacred, their bodies were taken and dumped. The CCTV camera that was installed at Lekki Toll Gate was wiped clean. The Lekki concession company that is in charge of that area, that had the CCTV, that should be able to explain why the tape was wiped clean, has not been reprimanded. Up to now, none of their agents. They continue to collect tolls there. The Lagos State governor also has to be publicly reprimanded.
I mean,
because he is the chief security officer of the state. And there was certain pronouncement he made during the period of the judicial panel, even after the panel's report came out. Don't forget what happened. Anyway, out of 34 recommendations of the panel.
Of course, it was a truly difficult time for Nigerians, particularly for young people who followed, the entire protest. But let's moving forward. How much of our democracy would you say, if at all, has this impacted? Do you think that, or are you of the opinion that Nigeria or citizens, particularly young people, still have faith in the country's democracy?
There is no faith, absolutely none. And this is not my opinion. Look at the last election. The number of people who stayed away, registered voters who stayed away, was nearly double the number of people that voted. Forget about the share of votes that the incumbent was able to secure, whether legitimately or otherwise. But even at face value, the number of people who stayed away was over 50 million. That is a clear demonstration of the fact that people have given up. Because this is not a democracy. This is simply civil rule. The question of democracy is not based on just having a parliamentary building and having regular elections. It's first and foremost about whether there is socio-economic justice. How is the wealth of society distributed.
Talking about the wealth of society, for instance, I mean, a lot of Nigerians, if we are to be real, I mean, let's bring it to reality, looking at the standard of living right now, or the cost of living compared to what it was 3 years ago. Let me not even go far. A year ago.
Just a year ago.
Right? I know the amount of messages I get, you know, as regards urgent 2K. It has doubled.
Yeah.
And I mean, it behoves on me why, you know, maybe Nigerians are comfortable with the current reality. Why? It seems...
Oh, Doc, we're going to do this
No.
We're going to do this
I just want to know, do you think the fallout of what happened during the SARS is still rubbing off on Nigerians? Hence...
It is still, I mean, it's what I was trying to say the other time, which is why I think it will be difficult for the Nigerian government to obey this ruling. Because I said that since the SARS protest, they've been running a propaganda which has been successful so far at criminalizing protest. Because what they have been able to do is to misrepresent the SARS protest as an action of a band of thugs who are hell-bent on destabilizing the country, destabilizing Lagos. So today now you have a neo-fascist group in Lagos that call itself Defenders of Lagos or whatever they call themselves, who threaten counter-protest, who threaten to beat up organizers of protest in order to prevent any attempt by Nigerians to express their displeasure at anything happening in the country. And the argument is that the SARS protest led to widespread destruction across the state. But it is not true. We, the SARS protesters, were first and foremost the first victim of violence. I was not at Lekki. I was at Alausa. And we saw thugs armed with machetes, new machetes, not old ones, so that these are not people who were just angry and came out of their house for whatever reason. They were obviously sponsored, and they came in BRT buses. We arrested some. I lost my glasses because I was preventing those bands of those who were arrested from being lynched. I played a role alongside with few other guys in ensuring that they were handed over to the police at the Lagos State House of Assembly.
It makes you wonder.
For prosecution. So today now, you have over 15 SARS protesters still in police detention. But there is no record that any of those thugs were prosecuted. I know for a fact that at least 4 were handed over to the police at the Lagos House of Assembly. This happened on 13th of October, much before all of the harassing that happened around Lagos happened. So that when you want to explain about who was responsible for the harassing and destruction, then you have to ask those who sponsored those talks in the first place. Because those who were protesting, they were clearly protesting. It was a carnival-like atmosphere, both at Lekki as well as at Alausa.
Well, we wait to see what this ruling will be for, and whether or not the implications of it for Nigeria and also wider, as well as whether or not Nigeria will comply to the ruling or the judgment by the Community Court of ECOWAS. But again, Hassan, many thanks for coming and I appreciate you for doing this with us.